Okay. Hello, 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 and welcome to Green Voices. Today, I'm going to be speaking with a lovely, lovely woman named Shaune Rogatschnig. She's an artist, a very talented artist, and somebody that has grown and evolved and is out there in the space of art, and everything that she touches is a brush of life and beauty and wonder, and I am very excited and I want to know more about you, Shaune. So welcome.
Thank you, Kat. Wow, what a lovely intro. Thank you so much.
Well, without a doubt, I mean, Shaune, your art is beautiful. Whoever has it hanging in their walls at their residential homes, or I know you've got some pieces up in trendy restaurants like Gloopdale's restaurants. I know you've got it up in hotels, in public spaces. Your art is hanging all over the world. How did you start? What is this? What made you do this?
Oh, how did I start? I think, well, it was actually when my dad passed away in 2010. I think after a year of grieving, I decided, you know what, life's too short. We need to do what we love, and I changed careers and started exploring how to paint properly. And I did some courses, and I joined some art clubs and societies, and I just started painting. I've always painted. At school I painted, and I sort of dabbled through the years, but I never thought I could maybe make a career of it. And I suppose with my dad's death, it just gave me the impetus to go, you know what, I need to do this. So that's where it started.
So you pick up a brush and you picked up a canvas and you started to you didn't have a style, you didn't have a way of painting, you didn't have a subject, you just started.
Yeah, no. So I went to once a week. I went to a course for a year to this lovely lady called Lynn Northam, and she taught me so much about oil painting. Because before I used to just work in acrylics or dabbled around, and so I really got some good grounding. And then I went to a few courses, and the one course that I went to was a lady in Simonstown called Yvonne Ankerman, and she did a palette workshop with a palette knife. And I did a protea, and I went home, and I think I showed a friend or two, and someone bought it. A friend bought it, and I was like, "Oh, what's this? You know, this is fantastic." Someone actually, the first time I'd sold a painting, and it was a little piece. Um, and I've always had such a passion for our flowers in South Africa, all these gorgeous proteas and pincushions, and the little ones and the big ones, and I'm always sort of admiring them. And so it really just connected with me. And at the time, I had little people in my life, and they would go to playgroup for a couple of hours in the morning. So I really had a very small window to paint in, and the palette knife gave me quite a freedom to paint quickly. So that, I had to go and pick up children at 12 o'clock, time to go, and I would go crazy. So that's kind of where the sort of my painting started progressing. I think I got a little bit of a taste of, I can actually do this. And I sort of found a link with something I was very passionate about.
Okay, so you started with small, you just played around, and then you grew bigger, and next thing
it's hard going bigger, and I kept going small, and eventually, I mean, I'm sitting with some big pieces behind me, and the biggest one I've done is a 2.5 by 1.5 meter canvas. So it's almost the width of this sort of wall. No, it's just huge. I mean, trying to transport it and turn it around and paint it from different angles, it was quite hilarious. I had the whole family involved, so that was quite fun.
Okay, so then when you started, it was more with friends, started to see your work, and then you approached galleries, or galleries started to approach you, and then you placed your pieces in quite a few, like local as well as surrounding areas. because I came across some of your pieces in Robertson in a gallery. I was like, oh, I
Yes.
know this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it, it all kind of, you do little bits every day or every few days, and friends started to sort of buy my work, and the art societies, it was the South African Art Society and the Constantiaberg Art Society, and they would have a slot at Kirstenbosch, so I would exhibit there, which is quite a useful space, especially in season, and my pieces would go there, and then I actually approached a few galleries, quite, it was always a bit, you got to go there with your sort of your work. And I think the first time for everything is really difficult. The first time I exhibited at Kirstenbosch was so nerve-wracking, and I remember being, it was crazy. But then you get used to it. So it's been little progressions. When I had a big enough range, I made some cards, and I found I've used that as a marketing tool, because people will pick up the cards whichever shop, and often will approach me from there. So that's been a very good way of just expanding and growing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, and you have an online presence as well. You've got a website
try. Yes.
and on social media. So you market yourself by yourself, or do you have an
Yes.
agent?
No, that's, you see, as an artist, you have to be, besides painting, which takes a whole lot of time and developing your skill, you've got to be a bit of everything and try and fit that all in. So there's the marketing and the PR. I do have a design background, so I'm able to use a lot of, I can work with a package and design my cards and all sort of that kind of stuff that you need to make a professional sort of,
Package.
yes,
Yeah.
package, which has been very useful, actually. It's been a very useful skill. And then you've got to approach galleries, and you've got to kind of, there's so much. You've got to order your supplies, you've got to package and courier, and so there's tons of things that need to happen besides just producing your art, if you want to take it further than, um, if you want to kind of build on it, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah, on the social media side it's an interesting beast. I you know um,
Yes.
yeah, sometimes I'm so engaged and kind of putting things out, and then sometimes I just want to retreat and go, this is just
Enough.
enough. And I think many artists will acknowledge this. I mean, most of us like to be in our studios just painting, and we're quite introverted at most times, so it does take quite a bit to put yourself out there. So some days are better, other days I go quiet. Yeah.
And then do you collaborate with other artists, or you say you've gone to other studios, you work with other artists to learn and grow from, or is it also a collaboration of different or tactics and how to get into the market?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's a little bit of both. You haven't quite. I think with some artists I'm still learning from, so we all have different skill bases, and they all offer courses and online experiences, which are just so lovely. And as an artist, I love going into someone else's studio and seeing what their practice is like, or learning a bit. One lady I did a course, Helen van Stoke, she's a lovely artist, also a local artist, and she did this wonderful intuitive course that was like really making your studio space beautiful, bringing in flowers and lighting a candle, and it was just wonderful to get that kind of energy from her. And collaborations, they do. I mean, I have looked into collaborations. It's quite hard with your brand, sort of, especially if I'm a fine artist and then producing sort of sub products from it. So there's just it's I'm open to it, and I think collaborations are happening more and more nowadays, which is it's a good way to go, because we all have skills we can bring into one pot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Almost like a movement. So if you look back
mm,
in Cape Town, when Irma Stern and Loebscher, they were all kind of were doing like a movement together. They were creating something, making almost like the more they worked together, the more they were noticed as like as an art
absolutely.
movement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I have noticed, I've connected with a lot of people on Instagram, local artists, doing very different styles to myself, and it's just wonderful to see how well they're doing.
Yes.
I kind of really believe we don't have to be struggling artists. I really don't, like, this is enough now. We're not going, and there's a lot of young energy, and they've got such a great way of using social media and putting themselves out there in beautiful ways, which I feel like I'm still learning. So,
Yeah, because as art as an investment, I remember some time ago, I was always said, because you could see that with Saatchi and Saatchi, I mean, they bubbled everything. Woolworths in there, if you go to their corporate office, it's just art everywhere, the banks, and so everyone's like, it's a huge like collection thing. And then suddenly it stopped in South Africa. People stopped collecting, and then I don't
okay.
know, were they sending it overseas, or were people still buying?
Well, I do know there was recently I submitted work for the Art Bank South Africa, and they buy pieces that they distribute for corporates and for
So local.
for local, yeah. I haven't actually found my way into the corporate market necessarily. I've actually had more sort of, I suppose, yeah, more sort of clients coming just from a personal side. So, people who've inherited money and want to buy something for their homes or for their guest houses or for family. And so I haven't actually, yeah, so I don't know that's industry, that side of the market very well, which is a great place to explore.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
hotels as well, where they commission you then to do for the whole setup in a
the whole,
boutique
yes,
hotel.
yes,
That could be
yes, that's, I
something.
know, yes, that would
Wow.
be lovely. I think it's I remember in the beginning I submitted a few quotes, and as an artist you're learning how to quote, you're learning how to kind of face the sort of this more sort of corporate
Business
world,
world.
this
The
business
business.
world. I mean, how do you value the art? I especially in the early days, I really struggled with trying to find a good price point for my work and to keep it consistent. So if I sell it to so and so down the road, and must be the same at the gallery. So you really got to work hard at keeping that price structure sound.
Okay.
And then if you do get a sort of a corporate or a large scale, they
Yeah.
kind of expect you to really reduce your price. And I think in the very beginning, your prices are quite low. I mean, you're starting, you kind of trying to build up. So you end up, it was sort of, oh, how much must I paint this painting for? Like nothing. So
Sure. Yeah.
it's quite a, I think, I mean, it's a good space that I haven't actually explored, and I think I should look into it again.
So yeah, because I know a lot of your pieces are in residential homes all over the world. I think you've even shipped to Austria and Europe,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I've been very fortunate.
quite
Yeah.
something. And then do tell me about your pieces are up in Lukedale, very trendy restaurants. That's quite
Yes.
something.
Yeah,
That's quite
yeah,
a
that I know that was very no, but I was very fortunate. Yeah, I mean we know Luke and Sandaline. Their son is at my daughter's school, and they're wonderful sort of creative couple. And I think Sandaline was like, oh, I need some pieces for the Saxon and Joburg. Like, do you think you could do this? I want them like this and watercolors. And I'm like, I don't do watercolors, but sure, I'll just do what So I spent the
wow.
weekend trying to do watercolors, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit of a push. So I kind of found a middle ground of using oil paper, and drawing and using oil colors, but with thin washes. So it became sort of a drawing with thin washes of oil color that had a sort of more old world botanical look to it,
Oh,
but was a sort of a fresh take on it. So she went with it. So that was a really really wonderful kind of um,
experience. And that
commission. It was wonderful.
okay. And tell me how with lockdown, did that affect you at all? Did it give you more time to be in the studio, or did it give you less time? And were the suppliers available during the time? How did you cope
Yeah,
in the beginning of the year?
I think, well, two couple things happened. I think I'd consciously decided to slow down a bit in terms of painting my pieces, taking a bit more time. a selling artist, there's a fine art of becoming sort of a factory. You've got to produce work, and I've this year, and maybe even from the end of last year, I kind of wanted to mix it up a bit. So I paint my big paintings of fynbos and proteas and things, and also play and explore other areas and try and develop those sides too. So I kind of been doing a bit of that. And I had a painting on the easel, and I have a client in Germany, and he spotted it. And I hadn't finished it, and he's like, "I'm taking it. I want it." So that was like, yay, okay, that takes care of, like, oh, okay. So that was a lovely way of just relaxing. And I this year I've been exploring. I've got a medium called cold wax, which you put into your oil paints, and it allows you to build up your oil colors and textures quite quickly. So I was playing, and I was sitting in the garden and doing sort of botanical sketches and trying to make sort of more abstract work. They haven't really worked, but it was such a beautiful process, and it really fed my soul to be playing in other areas. And then also painting. I painted a couple of big pieces because I knew when things shifted, we would get art out. I have noticed there's actually been an sort of an upsurge, because it's normally winter is a quiet season for selling art. I mean, things happen, but there's definitely a shift into summer, and you get like a season. But this winter it was interesting. I think people were at home and wanting to decorate their spaces, and have maybe thought of buying a piece of art. I also do a range of prints, so there's also that side, which is a little bit more affordable. And I think people were like, you know what, we're gonna do it now. I'm actually gonna spend the money on something, because I'm at home all the time. I want to
be around beautiful things.
Yeah, exactly. So it was an interesting kind of. I felt quite blessed during the time, because there was still movement and people interested in work. I did almost run out of white, which is one of the most critical kind of colors you need. I was like, come on, lockdown. But
you couldn't buy anything. There was no for 2 months.
There's nothing. Yeah. I normally do have quite a supply of canvases and paints and things. And yeah, so that was fine. But it also took some of the art shops quite a while to get their supplies back in, because the containers were taking importing. It's been quite a schlep for them. But then you just try other things, and I was using other colors. I was like, oh, let me try this one. I haven't used this for a long time. So it was good for me.
So all the oil, all the paints, because you paint in oil, and they come from overseas. They've shipped them in from. Everything's brought in, so there must have been a bit of a backlog on everything as well. Sure. So everyone's sitting there, everyone wondering, panicking, lockdown, no alcohol, no cigarettes, and Shaune's going,
art supplies,
no paint.
I think the first thing when lockdown lifted, I mean, at the Decal Edge, I went, and everything was out as well. I think everyone had gone and bought like all the basics that you need,
Okay, and then they had to restock and get everything. So, but now everything's back to everything's there.
I think it's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. And where to from here? You're just going to keep growing?
I'm busy. I've been doing some online courses. So I've just done one on abstraction, and I'm actually doing one on abstracting the figure. And I've really wanted to develop a body of work around figures and movement. So, but that's going to take a while, because that's very challenging. And I'm kind of building. Yeah, who knows? Keep painting.
So like a Degas,
well, yeah, I'd love to. I don't know. Yeah, if I could even remotely get like. So we will see. Yeah, I mean, yes, movement, dancing, that whole background, I just have had a connection with, and yeah, I'm not sure. I do feel like I should be a bit more sort of planned what's happening in the next few years, and maybe that will happen at some point when my children are a little bit, doing in their teenager years. But hopefully one day I'll have a solo exhibition. I don't know. One day we'll see. Yeah.
Okay, so is that one of the goals, to have a solo?
That's one of the goals.
Have you got a particular gallery in mind, or?
I have a few, and I have a few ideas, and I keep kind of building on ideas, and then go, "Ah, no, just paint, just paint, and don't put yourself
It
out
will
there so
come.
much." So it will come. Exactly, it will
Yes.
come. If it needs to come, it will come. I do believe in that kind of, and it'll
Philosophy.
fall into place. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm just practicing my craft. I really feel like I'm going. I've just started life drawing lessons again, which is so lovely. That was obviously closed for the last
Yeah.
since lockdown, so we've just started, and
So,
it's
but
just
you say
about really.
that's online, or do you actually go
No,
to a
the live
studio?
drawing is actually yeah,
Okay. And
physically there.
okay, so a group, and then you'll be busy exploring how movement. Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
you say so you do online as well as you going into. So it's an everyday. You do every day.
Well, yeah, I'm in my studio every day. I generally come into it in the morning,
Mm.
and then sort of I'm available for my children in the afternoon. But I'm also, now that they're older, I also get a couple of hours of either exploring other things I'm doing or doing some of the marketing or emails and things like that. Yeah,
Changing all the hats.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it is completely like that. Oh gosh,
Marketing
yeah.
time. Okay,
Yeah.
invoice
And
accountant.
then studio tidy time because like
Oh
it's a
yeah.
mess. Like every day, I'm like, oh, come on, I've just tidied it.
Stock count. Okay, yes, I've got everything I
Yeah.
need.
Yes, exactly. Ordering. Oh, yeah.
Oh
Anyway,
gosh, the whole thing.
the whole
But
thing.
you enjoy it. This is something you love. You couldn't imagine a life without it.
I can't, and I actually get quite ratty if I don't get to sort of just even doodle around, and like I need to just put something out there in my sketchbook or on paint. Like yeah, I've realized I get very ratty. I'm like, kids, I need studio time. Just give me half an hour.
Me time.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
never had a block. You've never had like, oh, creative block. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to
I
how, what.
I wonder if not so much a creative block, more like I get a flood of ideas and I just want to paint this and I just want to paint that and I want to do this and it doesn't happen like that. You have to kind of plan because planning your works makes better works and often that planning time doesn't always come forward and then those ideas fizzle and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me just finish what I've got. I've got a lot of pieces sitting around me that are half in fruition or whatever. Um, but it's yeah.
So then you pick it up again and you start
Pick it
and
up
you
and I look at it and I either
build
make
it.
a mess on it and I go, oh, that was a dud. Okay, let me look at it another day, or I carry on and starts to work, or I toss it in the bin.
And say,
Just don't
not today. Go
yeah,
sit in the
between three
naughty
more
corner.
moods. Yeah, tiny studio, everything else.
Yeah. So let's start again. And then
Yeah,
a blank canvas, does that not, oh my gosh, where to start? You just
I just
start.
start. Yeah, and I especially with the big ones, I just actually map in a lot of color. I will either just do one whole kind of color in oils, very thin, or I just put in blocks of color. It's just paint, and I know you can keep painting over it, and that was one of the greatest learnings I've had in the last few years. It is just paint. Don't get so oh, this is if it's bad, it's bad. If it's
Paint over it.
yeah. Well, I have been doing a lot of that. I've been taking some of my pieces that have been returned. One of the galleries had to close, and I got a whole lot of pieces back, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I've been painting over them. Some have worked, some because with a very thick palette knife paint, it kind of gets a bit tricky, and then you can't really. And so some of them have been real disasters.
Trying to
But
get
it's
them back.
yeah. Then I use them as pin boards or recycle them somehow, or figure out something. Yeah.
And okay, so you say there's a lot of young people coming into the art world now. You noticing a trend of artists, what, 20, 30-year olds coming in?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they've got an interesting way of putting themselves out there. I know my niece who's at Michaelis. I mean, she's already doing exhibitions with a group of mates, and they have these spaces and they have their work up, and it's just beautifully kind of they're just putting it themselves out there. I mean, it's scary for them, but they've got that, and they draw in huge crowds because they somehow so connected and so it's so easy for them. It's
Yeah, like
wonderful.
there's something about the art scene. I mean, because I remember back in the 90s or late 90s where they had these art pop-up exhibitions, and then it could be from a performance artist to,
Yeah.
so you go to all these different galleries as well. I know we've got the first Thursdays now where people
Yes.
go to the different galleries and have a look at stuff, but there used to be with the restaurants as well as the galleries, they would almost do like a collaboration of an event. So I know they were doing a bit more of this recently as well, but it seemed, I don't know, maybe it's just because this year's been a bit of a write-off.
It
Maybe it's
has been a
coming back
write-off.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Different
I think,
ways of, sorry, Kat, yeah.
yeah, the younger people, they just have this this energy, this drive to say, yeah, and I suppose they don't have much commitments like family and other things, so they can just like get together and show themselves, and then they collaborate with different styles of
Yeah,
art and
yeah,
performance
absolutely.
art and all of that.
Yeah, and I think they're not so sort of maybe attached to the galleries. I don't, or especially this year, I think, yeah, it's going to be a whole different space when things start to kind of move again. Yeah, it's a good space to watch and to see how these kids kind of take on the, yeah, they're not attached to kind of maybe things the way it was done before. You know, you can sell online now, you can sell through your own way, you can connect with a restaurant and sell your work through that, you can with your mates and build enough crowd to come. There's definitely a place for galleries, absolutely. I think it's lovely that there's such a mix now, a mix for everyone. Yeah.
So we've got some pretty spectacular artists in South Africa. I mean, you go look at the Mocha and Norval, and even, you know, when Red was around and all
Yeah.
these places. I mean, the art here is really, it's something else. It's something phenomenal. So I think a lot of artists also, do they leave South Africa or do they feel this is their home to speak about? Like for
Mm.
you, I mean, proteas, where else can you paint a protea except in Cape? It's like,
All the expats are overseas.
oh, yes.
Australia.
Oh, there we go. Yes, they'll take it. But you need to be
Yeah,
amongst the proteas and walk amongst
absolutely.
them
No,
and photograph
absolutely.
them and see them and look at them.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing. It's like when I go to Kirstenbosch or when we go traveling and oh no, I get so inspired by what we have around here.
Oh,
It's, no,
stop the
it, I,
car. There's
yeah,
Alan's over
stop it.
there.
No, the kids, no, we don't stop the car anymore. I'm like taking, the
Taking
kids
off.
don't want that anymore. Stop, mom. We're not taking any more photos. No, there's so much to be inspired by South Africa.
So if you speak to young people today, you must, like, you don't have to say anything because they're already doing, they're already going. You wouldn't like
Oh,
just
yeah,
go.
exactly. I don't think they have the sort of. I mean, when I came into the art, more into just sort of painting. I didn't have an art background. I hadn't gone through Michaelis, and so I felt very, I suppose, insecure as to where my place was in this art space because I wasn't kind of, you know, in that
Circle.
kind of, yeah, that circle at all. And I think the art societies that I joined, they were just very welcoming, very full of people who gave me so much information and ways to do things and inspiration, and just it was just, yeah, very comfortable, and that just suited me better because yeah, and I think there's a way of getting your art out anyway. Like if you want to be in a sort of connect with a gallery, absolutely. If you want to go through the art societies and build up from that way, if you want to do your own thing, I think that's what's so lovely. I think there's a way of um, getting art out there, and the audience, the South African audience, there are people who are receptive to it now. They want something from South Africa to be in their homes or to, you know, have that quirkiness or that, yeah,
Something special.
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
something
I think
special
it's
from
lovely.
home.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
and Shaune, you are okay. So when you know you've got your website and you're on all the social medias, I'm going to link everything below,
Okay.
and all the other places we can find you on all the different online galleries as well, where some of your work is exhibited. And then, yeah, we can all keep a very close eye on you until that solo exhibition. I will be first in line
Oh, thanks, Kat.
to come and have a look.
10 years, 20 years, no pressure.
It takes a while to build that collection to
Yeah,
present there.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So wow, I think I love your journey. I think it's yeah, I wish I was as brave as you. I'd just love to just do that, but yeah, just
Just start with a little bit every day. That's what it is, a little bit every day.
a
Whatever
little,
journey you're on, you know?
yeah, and you build from that. And next thing you
Absolutely.
know, you have a collection. And
Exactly. That's tough.
you have Okay. Any parting thoughts? Last
Oh,
word?
no. Okay, thank you for having me. Gosh, I've never done anything like this. So, yeah,
Yes.
thank you for
Well,
thinking of me.
yes, this is it's a also for me it's like a new starter thing. So it's like a small. We all got to start somewhere, and it's that's how the journeys always begin. Hey, so
Absolutely.
keep going and keep speaking. And I want to hear you speaking on other YouTube channels now and international channels as well, and everyone to see your work because it's something that is beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Kat. Have a lovely day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.